So if you want the ultimate framework for avoiding adult burnout, you probably shouldn't look at a tech CEO's optimized calendar.
Definitely not.
No. And you definitely don't need another spreadsheet tracking your micro habits. Honestly, you should actually be looking at a 12-year-old girl's homework assignment.
It's pretty wild, but it's true.
It really is. Welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring a primary source that looks remarkably simple on the surface. It's a first-hand personal essay written by a 12-year-old named Emma, and it's titled My Life and My Family.
Yeah, and it really is the definition of hiding in plain sight. I mean, on a first read, it's just a straightforward recap of a kid's day.
Right, just a normal diary entry.
Exactly. She lives in a small town with her parents, an older brother, little sister, and a dog named Max. They have a house with a garden, very standard stuff. But when you actually start to analyze the mechanics of how she moves through her day,
That's where it gets interesting.
it really does. It stops being this cute little diary entry and becomes a literal masterclass in pacing, intentional community building, and goal setting.
So the mission for today's deep dive is to extract those mechanics for you, the listener. Because adults, and I mean myself absolutely included here, we struggle constantly with managing our energy and our ambitions.
Oh, constantly. It's exhausting.
Yeah, so think about load-bearing architecture for a second. When you look at a well-designed brick wall, no single brick is just floating in isolation, right?
Right. Every block perfectly supports the weight of the next one.
Exactly. And that is exactly what Emma's routine looks like. Every single phase of her day creates this remarkably stable foundation for the activity that immediately follows it.
The structure is incredibly deliberate. I mean, nothing is wasted, and every action serves a very distinct purpose for her physical or mental well-being.
So to understand how she builds this architecture, we should probably look at how she lays the very first bricks in the morning.
That's the best place to start.
Because I want to set the scene here. Her morning routine is highly specific.
Very regimented.
Yeah, she wakes up at precisely 6:30 a.m. She makes her bed, washes her face, brushes her teeth, gets dressed, and then immediately goes to the kitchen to have breakfast with her family.
Just knocking it all out.
Right. But I have to play devil's advocate here for a second. We're sitting here praising a 12-year-old for having this highly rigid, optimized morning routine.
I know where you're going with this.
Well, doesn't that sound incredibly stifling for a kid? I mean, we associate childhood with freedom, not executing a relentless checklist before the sun is barely up.
It totally might sound rigid if we view it through, like, the lens of corporate productivity culture.
Yeah.
But biologically speaking, what she's actually doing is conserving cognitive resources.
Okay, unpack that a bit.
So there's this well-documented psychological concept called decision fatigue. Basically, every single choice you make in a day, no matter how tiny, depletes a finite reserve of mental energy in your frontal lobe.
So even just choosing what shirt to wear drains the battery.
Exactly. So by completely automating the mundane physical aspects of her morning, Emma isn't stifling her freedom at all. She is aggressively protecting her mental energy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she doesn't have to negotiate with herself about what to do next. The checklist does the work for her.
It reminds me of an athlete's pre-game warm-up. You never see an Olympic sprinter at the starting line suddenly wondering how they should stretch their hamstrings or what sequence to do it in.
Right, it's all muscle memory.
Yeah, the warm-up is entirely automated, so they don't waste an ounce of mental focus on the mechanics. They save all that cognitive energy for the actual performance. And Emma's 6:30 a.m. routine is, well, it's her warm-up.
That athlete analogy maps perfectly onto what happens next, actually. Because she has conserved all that early energy, she has the capacity to transition smoothly into social connection.
Which is a whole different type of energy.
Exactly. She isn't rushing out the door in a panic. She sits down for a communal family breakfast. She mentions having bread, butter, jam, an egg, milk, sometimes pancakes, and then at 7:30 a.m., she takes the school bus with her friends.
And she specifically notes in the essay that they talk and laugh on the way.
Right. She is actively priming her nervous system with positive social reinforcement before the cognitive demands of the school day even begin.
So she is essentially layering family connection and then peer connection on top of that automated morning routine.
Exactly. She's building the foundation.
Which brings us to the actual performance part of her day, which is school. Classes start at 8:00 a.m., and she lists this pretty broad curriculum: math, science, history, geography, physical education.
A full load.
Yeah, a very full load. But the essay highlights her two absolute favorite subjects, which are English and art.
And the contrast between those two subjects is so fascinating. when we look at how the brain manages cognitive load.
How so?
Well, English requires a highly analytical, structured approach. It's all about, syntax, vocabulary acquisition, following strict grammatical rules. It's very left brain.
Very rules-based.
Right. But art, conversely, requires divergent thinking. It's about spatial awareness, open-ended exploration, visual expression.
So she's flexing two completely different mental muscles.
Exactly. By leaning into both of them, she is essentially cross-training her brain. She prevents localized mental fatigue by switching between the neural networks required for structured communication and those used for, free-form creativity.
And she's very specific about why she loves them, which I loved. She loves art because she enjoys drawing pictures of animals and nature, but her reason for loving English is what really caught my attention.
Yeah, this part is brilliant.
She loves learning new words and reading stories, sure, but she explicitly highlights that she loves speaking with her teacher and her classmates.
Right, it's all about the people.
Yes. Her entire motivation for learning is communal. She isn't learning English just to pass a test.
And that is such a stark contrast to how the modern adult world operates. I mean, we tend to view learning, and especially focused work, as a highly solitary endeavor.
Oh, absolutely. Just head down, headphones on.
Right. We sit alone in cubicles or our home offices, staring at screens, trying to absorb information or produce output in total isolation. But for Emma, the work is simply the medium through which she connects with other human beings.
The knowledge isn't the end goal. The connection is.
Exactly.
And we see that communal approach play out even more clearly during her breaks. She talks about playing football in the schoolyard or walking and talking with her best friend Anna.
Anna is a very key player in this ecosystem.
She really is. And the way Emma describes Anna is just brilliant. She says Anna is kind, funny, and always helps her when she has a problem. They sit together in class and they help each other with homework.
So Anna isn't just a friend to pass the time with on the playground.
Right, she's a coworker.
She is a built-in support system for problem solving. And there's actual science behind why this is so effective. When we face a difficult cognitive task alone, our bodies often release cortisol, the stress hormone.
Because we feel overwhelmed.
Yeah, because the challenge feels like a threat to our competence. We're isolated and struggling. But when we tackle that exact same problem with a trusted peer, the shared cognitive load and the social support drastically reduce that stress response.
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, Emma doesn't panic when she hits an academic roadblock because she has Anna. They regulate each other's stress simply by collaborating.
It is such a profound shift in perspective. Instead of viewing a difficult math problem as a personal failure, it becomes a shared puzzle to solve with your friend.
A completely different way to approach work.
But even with that amazing support system, a full school day is exhausting.
Oh, totally draining.
And that brings us to the afternoon, and I genuinely believe this might contain the most critical piece of load-bearing architecture in this entire essay.
You're talking about the transition from the public sphere back to the private sphere.
Yes. So after school, she goes home for lunch with her family. They have chicken and rice, pasta, or vegetable soup. But right after lunch, she writes this incredibly revealing sentence.
I know exactly the one you mean.
Quote, "I rest for a short time before I start my homework."
It's so simple, but so powerful.
I read that and realized how entirely foreign that concept is to most adults. I mean, think about our days. We transition straight from a grueling Zoom meeting into answering a flood of emails, or we log off from work and instantly begin cooking dinner and doing chores.
There's zero buffer.
Zero. We view rest as the ultimate reward that you only get to unlock once every single task on your to-do list is completely finished.
And that's where we get it so wrong. Emma treats rest as the necessary prerequisite for the work, rather than the reward for it.
Which is it's a paradigm shift.
And from a neurological standpoint, she is absolutely right. When you learn new information like she does all morning at school, your brain needs time to actually consolidate those memories.
It needs to process the data.
Exactly. There's a network in the brain called the default mode network. It activates when you are awake, but not actively focused on the outside world.
Like when you're just staring out a window.
Yes. When you simply sit and rest, your brain is actually highly active behind the scenes. It's sorting, organizing, and storing all the morning's input. If you plow straight from school into heavy homework without resting, you interrupt that vital consolidation process.
So it functions almost like a palate cleanser between courses of a really heavy meal.
That's a great way to put it.
You have the demanding cognitive load of the school day, Then you have lunch and a short rest to clear the metaphorical table. And only then are you actually ready to taste and absorb the next course, which is the 1 to 2 hours of studying she does in the afternoon.
And notice the brilliant pivot she makes after the studying is done.
The chores.
Yes, she shifts from intellectual labor to physical communal labor. She helps her mother clean her room or water the flowers in the garden.
Now, for most kids, and honestly most adults, chores are viewed as a tedious punishment, just something to get through.
Right, a complete drag.
But the way it is framed in her ecosystem feels completely different. It's integrated into her well-being.
Because she is engaging in active recovery. After sitting still and doing complex mental work for hours, moving her body to water the garden gives her analytical brain a much-needed break.
It gets her out of her head.
Exactly.
Okay.
Furthermore, it reinforces her role within the family ecosystem. She isn't just a passive consumer in this household. She's an active participant in maintaining this beautiful garden that she's so proud of.
The physical labor grounds her.
Yes, it provides a sense of ownership and peace.
And that concept of grounding brings up another really fascinating layer of her life, which happens on the weekends, specifically Saturdays.
The village visits.
Yeah. Every Saturday, the family leaves their house and visits her grandparents in a nearby village. Her grandmother cooks, the cousins come over to play in the garden, and her grandfather tells them these interesting stories about his childhood.
The inclusion of her grandfather's stories is such a vital detail when we talk about human resilience.
Really? How so?
Well, in sociology, there is significant research in how children develop a sense of identity and emotional strength. And it turns out one of the strongest predictors of a child's emotional health is their knowledge of their family history.
Oh, wow. I wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah. Hearing stories from a grandparent about their own childhood, their struggles, their environment, it does something incredibly powerful to a developing mind.
I suppose it gives them a broader context, right? It shows her that her life isn't just floating in a vacuum.
Precisely. It builds what psychologists call an intergenerational self.
An intergenerational self. I like that.
When Emma hears those stories, she understands that she is part of a much longer, larger narrative. This deepens her roots. When a child, or an adult for that matter, feels securely embedded in a larger family history, daily stressors become much easier to manage.
Because the small stuff doesn't seem so big anymore.
Right. A bad grade on a test or a fight with a friend doesn't feel catastrophic because she has this massive grounding anchor of extended family history to put it all in perspective.
So we have this incredibly balanced daily routine and this deeply rooted weekly routine. And all of this careful pacing is what gives her the energy to fully engage with her evenings.
Which is my favorite part of the essay.
Mine too.
Yeah.
Because this is where we see her focus on her passions and her ultimate life goals.
The evening wind down in this essay really shows us the power of intrinsic motivation.
Yeah. So in her free time, she reads, listens to music, watches cartoons, regular kid stuff, and rides bicycles or plays board games with her siblings.
Very wholesome.
Very. But she also explicitly lists her hobbies: reading, drawing, singing, and learning English. And she connects that last hobby, learning English, directly to a massive future aspiration.
Well, the big dream.
The big dream. She writes that her dream is to travel to different countries and meet new people, and she wants to become an English teacher because she enjoys helping others learn.
And the psychology of why she wants to do this is what makes it so sustainable. Her motivation isn't extrinsic.
Right. She doesn't say she wants to be a teacher for the status.
Or for a specific salary, or to win an award, or have summer vacations. Her motivation is entirely intrinsic. It stems from a core value she already practices every single day, the joy of helping others.
Which we've already seen all over this essay.
Exactly. She helps her mom in the garden, she helps Anna with homework, and her grand ambition is simply to scale that helpfulness to the rest of the world.
She has drawn a completely straight line between her daily actions and her future goals. She is practicing English vocabulary today so she can travel the world and help people tomorrow.
There's no cognitive dissonance there.
None. And it is so easy for adults to lose that thread. I mean, we get so bogged down in the endless mechanics of our jobs that we totally forget why we are doing them in the first place.
We lose sight of the grand adventure.
Exactly. Imagine how differently you would approach a mundane Tuesday morning, the emails, the meetings, the terrible commute, if you clearly remembered the adventure those small tasks were ultimately preparing you for.
It changes everything. When you have that clear alignment between daily habits and future aspirations, the difficult parts of the day stop feeling like burdens.
They become stepping stones.
Right. You're willing to endure the friction because you know Exactly what it is building toward.
Which brings us to the very end of her day at 9:30 p.m., her bedtime routine.
This part is so revealing.
It is. Before she even brushes her teeth or reads a book, the very first thing she does is prepare her school bag and her clothes for the next day.
She is literally setting up the load-bearing architecture for the next morning.
Yep.
But on a deeper psychological level, she is practicing temporal discounting, or rather, she's overcoming it.
What does that mean, temporal discounting?
So, human beings are notoriously bad at empathy for our future selves. We often treat the tomorrow version of ourselves as a complete stranger.
Oh, like when I leave a sink full of dishes at midnight.
Exactly. You stay up too late or leave a mess in the kitchen, assuming that tomorrow me will somehow have the magical energy to deal with it.
And tomorrow me is always very angry about it.
Always. But Emma treats her future self as a friend. By packing that bag at 9:30 p.m., she's performing a profound act of kindness for the girl who has to wake up at 6:30 a.m.
So when her alarm goes off, she doesn't have to scramble to find her books or choose an outfit.
Nope. Past Emma already took care of it.
It completely closes the loop of her day. She ends the essay by noting that she usually sleeps very well because she knows another happy day is waiting for her.
And that lack of anxiety at bedtime isn't an accident. It's the direct result of a day where her cognitive energy was protected, her social needs were met, and her future was planned for.
When she reflects on her life in the concluding thoughts of the essay, Emma basically distills her entire worldview. She says she loves her life because of her caring family, her good friends, and her kind teachers.
A wonderfully supportive ecosystem.
And her defining philosophy is that hard work, kindness, and a positive attitude are the absolute keys to achieving her dreams.
What is so compelling about this document is that it proves her positive attitude is not just a genetic lottery win.
Or just pure luck.
Right. It is deliberately constructed. It is built through balanced routines that actually respect her biological limits. It is sustained by supportive relationships where help is freely given and received.
She has literally built an environment where optimism is the most logical outcome.
She and her family are laying those bricks every single day.
So for you listening right now, the next time you feel completely overwhelmed by the adult grind, skip the obscure productivity supplements. Look to Emma's load-bearing architecture.
It's a much better blueprint.
It really is. Lean on your community and ask for help instead of isolating yourself. Take a dedicated, screen-free rest before you dive into your heaviest work to let your brain consolidate.
Treat rest as a prerequisite.
Yes. And tonight, do yourself a massive favor and prep your bag for tomorrow. Be kind to your future self.
It is incredibly profound wisdom packaged in a 12-year-old's daily diary. It really forces us to ask why we abandon these fundamental practices when we grow up.
It really does. We make things so much harder than they need to be. But before we wrap up today's deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
Emma's beautiful, load-bearing architecture, her belief that kindness, hard work, and a positive attitude are always enough, is currently built on a highly localized, perfectly supportive ecosystem.
Very localized.
Right. She has her wonderful family, her dog Max, her supportive teachers, and her best friend Anna. It is a wonderfully safe, cultivated local garden.
A safe bubble.
Exactly. But her dream is to travel to different countries and teach. She is eventually going to leave that small town. So the question is, when she steps outside of that safe bubble and faces the inevitable friction, complexity, and sometimes harshness of the wider world, how will that experience challenge, test, or perhaps ultimately solidify her foundational belief in the power of a positive attitude?